imitation is the highest form of flattery, and if that's the case, then Jerad Eickhoff is going to want to imitate Vince Velasquez from last night, and the Phillies offense is going to want to do the same. Tonight is game number 2 of this 3-game series between the Phils and the Arizona Diamondbacks. And how about this road trip so far for the Phillies? It's yielded just a few victories, but look what it's done to the offense. They're hitting .320 during the trip with 44 runs scored, 10 home runs, and 18 doubles. Even the on-base percentage is through the roof compared to the rest of the regular season. Hi, everybody. I'm Tom McCarthy, joined by Ben Davis. Yes, the offense is doing a nice job. We'll talk about that in just a little bit when we break down Peter Bourjos. But let's first talk about the Phillies pitching. And tonight it's Jerad Eickhoff, who stopped the 9-game losing streak on this road trip. And the Phillies hope that he can pick up again where he left off in Minnesota.
They do, and he's been really hot lately. And what I like about it is the fact that he has made adjustments. Just like the hitters you just talked about, they started to make some adjustments. Well, Jerad Eickhoff made some adjustments. It really wasn't going particularly well for them in April and May for Jerad Eickhoff, but he made the adjustments. He started to use some other pitches, namely that slider's been very good. Started mixing some changeups. The breaking ball is still really good, but making these adjustments is what it's all about.
He's become a balanced starting pitcher, 3-2 with a 2.01 ERA in the month of June, and a lot of it he credits to Carlos Ruiz in calling the games behind the plate.
And you will not see Jerad really shake Chooch off. Obviously, if he feels really adamant about something, he'll say, no, I'm going to throw what I want to throw here, but he has listened to Chooch a lot.
All right, well, he faced the Arizona Diamondbacks on the last homestand, and he faced Zack Greinke, who's on the mound again tonight for Arizona. Greinke has been dazzling during the month of June. This will be his 6th start, a 1.47 ERA so far, and the opposition hitting just a .180 against him, and we saw a lot of that when he was back in Philadelphia.
The Diamondbacks are finally starting to get their money's worth out of Zack Greinke, and rightfully so. He is good. He's not an overpowering guy, but the dude can flat out pitch. He mixes in all 4 pitches, and when he's good, like he has been, he's down, down, down. He can do it with all his pitches. Preferably likes to get a lot of outs with that changeup.
Well, one thing that we did notice during the course of this ball game is that he was right around the strike zone. Very rarely would he throw anything out of the strike zone, but he's able to command all of those pitches, which makes him so difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult, and he believes in every pitch that he throws out there. Like I said, 4 pitches, but he believes he can throw any 4 of them at any time and get you out.
Pete Mackanin said before the ball game, well, maybe he's due, and maybe the Phillies offense is due to get some runs against him. So he'll be opposed tonight by Jerad Eickhoff. It is game 2 of this 3-game series, 17th start for Greinke, 16th start so far this season for Eickhoff. Well, we talked about the Phillies offense, how it is starting to step it up, and you want to talk about stepping it up. Peter Bourjos is home here in Phoenix, and he feels like he's at home in the lineup, and we'll talk about it when we get back. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. By Toyota. Get big savings at Toyota's Red, White, and Blue sales event. Toyota, let's go places. By Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. And by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Learn more at IBX.com. before the start of tonight's ball game. A lot of friends and family who were in town to see him play here in Arizona. Last night, it didn't go particularly well for him offensively, but it went particularly well for Peter Bourjos. Bourjos has been red hot here in the month of June, hitting over 400, and he has reached his peak, Ben, on this road trip.
He's been awesome. And it was funny to hear him interviewed after the game last night. Murph said, what has really been working for you? He said, I'm not trying to hit the ball hard. You talk to most hitters, they say, all I'm trying to do is hit the ball hard. Well, he said, no, I'm just trying to make contact and let the pitcher's power supply how hard the ball comes off the bat. And true to his word, that's what he's doing right now, using the whole field, hitting for power. Not a whole lot of motion in Peter Bourjos' setup, but his timing is on point right now, and he's hitting the heck out of the baseball.
I was talking to him before the ball game today, and he said he's very comfortable being back home here in Phoenix. That's helped a little bit over the last couple of days, but look what he's done on the road trip. He's hitting .519 on the road trip, and as he pointed out, not only is he hitting singles, but he's getting extra base hits as well. So the Phillies hope that continues tonight. He's back in the number 2 spot with Odubel Herrera leading things off. Speaking of the Phillies lineup, we'll get to that and the first pitch for tonight's ball game when we return to Chase Field. Cody Asche is in the starting lineup tonight against Zach Greinke, getting a chance to bat against the right-hander after Tommy Joseph struggles offensively last night. Speaking of the Phillies lineup, let's take a look at it. It's brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. It'll be Herrera, Bourjos, and Franco, followed by Ryan Howard and Carlos Ruiz, who hits 5th tonight. Cody Asche's in left field batting 6th, and then the bottom third of Galvis, Hernandez, and Eickhoff, and they will face veteran right-hander Zach Greinke, who after a tough start, as we mentioned in Philadelphia last week, has really turned it around. 10-3 with an ERA of 3.61.
He has been outstanding for these Diamondbacks. Mixes all his pitches. I take a look at the scouting report. 4 pitches. He'll sit about 91. Changeup, I believe, is his best out pitch. Career versus Philly, very good numbers. 7-1 with a 2.7 ERA.
Well, if you remember seeing him pitch against the Phillies in Philadelphia, Odubel Herrera took him yard to left center field. And the first pitch of the game is whacked foul, and we're underway, and it's no balls and 1 strike. Odubel last night 4 for 5, and because of that, it raised his average back over 300 to 307. 8 home runs and 28 RBIs. I told him today, I said, next up is the on-base percentage, and he just smiled. Shows bunt, takes upstairs, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. The Lucky McDonald's Phillies home run jackpot contestant is Diane Angstedt of Mertztown, Pennsylvania. Phillies hit a home run in today's ball game, and Diane will win $200. Stop by McDonald's today and enjoy the new McPick 2 for $2.50 menu. I'm loving it.
Good luck, Diane.
Odubel against the changeup, but it's 1-2. Zach Greinke throws his changeup exactly the way we saw Vince Velasquez throw it last night. It's basically his fastball grip, but he just grips it a little tighter. And the difference is only about 3 or 4 miles an hour, but it is a difference.
It's a big difference, and it has a ton of movement.
1-2 pitch to Odubel. Curveball. He flips it foul over the dugout and out of play. Greinke is now 32 years old. Started his career with the Kansas City Royals. Folks in Wilmington remember when he pitched for the Blue Rocks. He has pitched for the Angels, the Brewers, the Dodgers, and now the Diamondbacks.
That's the one I always forget, is the Angels.
Down low, and it's 2-2. Well, there are his numbers. Take a look at the Royals' numbers. 60 and 67 with Kansas City. Now, part of that is that the first 5 years he was with the Royals, he was 34 and 45. I mean, he was 11 games under 500 with an ERA over 4. And then after that, since that time, he has 118 wins, 51 losses, and a 2.97 earned run average. And Mike Butcher and Chip Hale are reaping the benefits of it. Part of the benefits of Zack Greinke evolved under Bob McClure, the Phillies pitching coach. Another foul ball, and it remains 2-2.
That's why he was paid the handsome contract he got.
This will be the 8th pitch of this at bat for Odubel Herrera. It's it down the left field line. That'll slice out of play.
I say handsome contract. If you're into 6 years, $206 million and a half. $206 million
and a half. Yeah, a lot of people thought that he was just going to re-sign with the Dodgers. They had all the money in the world, but really out of nowhere, he signed with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And he is working to try to get Odubel Herrera, who is working to try to get on. And now the 2-2 pitch. In the dirt, 3-2. No swing, says the third base umpire, Lance Barrett. I think if Odubel thought he swung, he would have taken off on that. Behind the plate tonight, Pat Hoberg, Dale Scott, the crew chief, is at first. Bob Davidson is at second. And Lance Barrett, who was behind the plate last night, is over at third. He was a big topic of conversation in the clubhouse last night and today.
Big strike zone last night.
And some people felt like they still don't know what a strike zone was. And Odubel off the plate toward first base. Goldschmidt has it, flips to first, and he's safe at first. Greinke did a heck of a job becoming a first baseman on that. And Odubel Herrera, after a 10-pitch at bat, gets a leadoff single here in the top of the first inning.
What a great AB. It's a very good play by Goldschmidt and Greinke. Both very good defensive players. But what Zack Greinke does so well is he speeds right to the bag, sprints to the bag, puts his foot on it.
You can see there the hand for Odubel Herrera got to the bag.
And I've seen him do this probably 3 or 4 times this year, Tom, where he slides and his top hand goes over the bag.
Somebody has to talk to him, though, about not doing it anymore. He would be quicker if he went right through the bag. Sometimes if the throw's in the line, it's fine.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't really gauge that, but the throw would not have been in the line there.
No.
But it's a leadoff single, and now Peter Bourjos, who's hitting 7 straight and is hitting .471 over his last 14 days. He'll be the batter with a runner at first base. And he lines it out toward right field. Going back on it is Tomas, and he'll make the catch right on the edge of the warning track. It's still a good swing. All right, Ben, time now for our Nissan keys to tonight's ball game.
Odubel Herrera did it to start the game off, and Peter Bourjos just did it as well. Make Greinke elevate, especially with that changeup. Now Odubel laid off a couple of those changeups that he spiked in the dirt. That's what he wants you to do, is offer those. And then Jerad Eickhoff, don't try and make it better. His last June has been very good for Jerad. I don't want him to think, well, I can get even better. I can even get any better. What he's doing right now is great. Just continue to do it.
Certainly would like the same run support that he had in Minnesota and that the Phillies gave Velasquez last night. Maikel Franco swings at the first pitch and he lifts it to center field. Bourne makes the catch. All right, so after 10 pitches against Odubel, Zack Greinke has now thrown 2 pitches to get the first 2 outs.
Baseman number 6, Ryan Howard.
So Franco is retired and Ryan Howard will be the batter. Ryan in his last 3 starts has driven in a run in each of those starts. He has 4 hits against Greinke and 4 RBIs. Runner goes and then stops. The pitch is a foul tip and it's 0-1. Diamondbacks have one of the worst home records in baseball at 13-26. Their road record is 23-17. Opposite way, that'll go foul off the bat of Ryan Howard. And it's 0-2.
That is drastic. That is drastic.
Sometimes you see a difference as you see Howard's numbers with 2 strikes. You see a difference in, you know, it's an odd difference, the splits, but that is off the charts odd.
Oh for 40 with a 0-2 count. Wow.
He lays off 1-2. He went around and Howard strikes out. So 0 for 41 with 2 strikes. So Odubel Herrera has a 10-pitch at bat that results in an infield hit, but he's left over at first. So Jerad Eickhoff will go to work when we get back here in Arizona. In all of Major League Baseball after last night. So let's take a look at Hale's lineup for today. Brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Segura aboard in Goldschmidt. Jake Lamb starts at third base again. And then Yasmani Tomas. Wellington Castillo does the catching. Peter O'Brien is back in the lineup in left field hitting 7th. Zack Greinke bats 8th. And Nick Ahmed will bat 9th. And they will face right-hitter Jerad Eickhoff. Eickhoff 5-9 on the year, an ERA of 3.36. The earned run average does not match the win-loss record, and that's partly because of run support early on.
You're right. It's not very indicative of how well he's pitched recently. Jerad Eickhoff has been just lights out for these Phillies, and hopefully it continues. Take a look at the scouting report. It's at about 91. Big curveball.
Mixed in some changeups. The slider's been very good as well.
Gene Segura takes a strike, and it's 0-1. Segura was 1 for 4 last night with 1 base hit being a single. Upstairs, 1 ball and 1 strike. Segura's hitting .311, 5 home runs, 32 runs batted in. You see what he's done over his last 17 games. He's been a pretty good leadoff hitter. He has 95 hits this year. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Fans are getting on the home plate umpire rather early in this game. That looked like a pretty good pitch.
I think Gene thought it was a bit high. It's a strike.
Outside, it's 2-2. Tonight's game is also available in Spanish. Just use the SAP button on your television or change the language through the menu on your cable box. Whoa, that got away. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
He's looking at his glove for it. His glove didn't throw it.
Maybe somehow the ball got stuck in the glove. And low, ball 4, so he walks Segura. I think he threw all fastballs during that at bat. So Segura has now reached base safely in 18 of his last 19 games.
Number 1,
Michael Bourn is coming up.
Jared just overthrew those fastballs. Got himself ahead in the count and then spiked a couple.
Michael Bourn hitting .252 with 2 homers and 15 RBIs. Segura with 13 steals. Bourn shows bunt, takes outside. Markov thought that slider was in for a strike. It was a little wide according to the home plate umpire. Got that slider over it. It's 1-1.
Always nice when you can throw that pitch behind in the count.
Interesting thing about the slider is that he is throwing it more often than the curveball. I wonder if that'll ever change back, because the curveball was such an important pitch for him.
Yeah.
Another toss over to first.
Played a handful of games here, obviously being in the NL West coming up, but I've had many a pitcher that said, hey, struggling with my off speed today. I just can't get a feel for the ball. It is dry here despite being 110 degrees. It is very dry, and sometimes they lose control of it.
He's battling a little bit of command right now. It's 2 balls and 1 strike after walking Segura to begin the bottom of the first. See the distribution of pitches. The curveball still percentage wise, he has thrown more over the long haul than the slider, but the last month it's been the opposite. Foul back to the screen, 2-2. There's the curveball, first one of the night. So back-to-back 3-ball, 2-strike counts. Velasquez kind of had this issue last night, particularly in the first inning. tighten it up here. Segura goes, pitches hit in the air to left center field. Odubel will settle under it. Segura's not going to go as far as he did last night.
No.
When Odubel doubled him up. And one away, and Paul Goldschmidt will be the batter. Last time these two teams faced each other, Eickhoff did get Goldschmidt on that curveball. He froze him with it at one point. Goldschmidt's a little different hitter since the last time. I mean, he's hitting 6 straight. He's raised the average to 304. Coming off a road trip in which he hit 432. And he's just been unbelievable over the last month. I mean, we are a month since he started hitting consistently, and he's hitting 404 since that time.
Wow.
Since the 27th of May. There's a fastball and it's 1-1.
He just gets it. You know, you leave something soft or something even hard middle end. I mean, he'll drive you out to left field. Leave something hard up out over the plate. He'll take you out to right field. Down and in, he'll hook down the line. He's just an excellent hitter.
Ooh, Segura was leaning, and the pickoff throw was toward the first base line. I don't even know if he was leaning. I don't even think he was paying attention.
Wow. He was.
Good throw, would have had him.
Yeah.
Out to right field. Peter Borges going back on it. He'll make the catch, and Segura will retreat back to first. 2 outs, and Jake Lamb will be the hitter. Lamb was 0 for 3 in last night's game, hitting .282 with 15 home runs, 51 runs batted in. Speaking of last night's game, we were asking Pete today about pitching Ramos for 2 and Neris because they had a comfortable lead. He said, I wanted to win that game. He said, I could have put somebody else in. He said, and it's not that I don't trust others. He said, but I trusted Ramos and Neris that they were going to put that game away.
Reason enough for me.
It's Velasquez last night, 5 innings, 7 strikeouts. Felt good today. I said to him, I said, was that because you didn't have other guys available that you pitched Neris in the 8th inning? Ramos for 2. He said, no, I wanted to win the game. He said, and he emphasized, he goes, I wanted to win the game. Just a bit outside. 1 ball, 1 strike. Got to hang in there with the home plate umpire tonight and his calls. His intent to call it a strike, but there's a little bit of a delay. Everybody has a different style. This is the first time we've seen Pat Hobart this year as the home plate umpire.
Tim McClellan was one for me. He had a very delayed call, and good umpire though.
Segura again is out at first base. They kept on trying, and Eickhoff with quick feet is able to pick him off, and the side is retired. The throw was right in the path, and Ryan Howard was just able to lay the tag on him. Segura thinking, I'm on my way. Well, he's on his way back to his position at second base. We'll go to the second in a scoreless game between the Phils and the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks quiet in their half of the first. It'll be Carlos Ruiz, Cody Asche, and Freddie Galvis for the Phillies. Carlos did not play in last night's game. He's 3 for 14 on this road trip so far. And it's no balls and 1 strike. You see he's got a little bit of movement in his hands when he's up at the plate now. He's not as stiff as he was earlier. Trying to gain a little momentum. That separation that you guys talk about so often.
Just a little bit.
Carlos average at 226. He has good numbers against the Diamondbacks, but not so good against Greinke.
No.
Looking for his first base hit against him.
He's due.
Outside, 2-1. His career numbers here at Chase Field. A lifetime 300 hitter against the Diamondbacks overall. Greinke at his last outing went 5 2/3 against the Rockies. He allowed 7 hits and 3 earned runs. That was the follow-up to the 8-inning appearance against the Phils. As Michael Bourn says he has this fly ball lined up. And one away. Cody Asche's coming up. Asche has been red hot. He and Peter Bourjos both, Murph, have been red hot for the Phils in the outfield.
They certainly have, Tom. And, you know, since the beginning of this season, very early in April and May, one of the glaring weaknesses of this offense was production from the outfield. You take away Odubel Herrera, and they were really not getting a whole lot of anything from the corner outfield positions. But that has started to change in the month of June. Pete Mackanin talked about wanting to try and find 3 guys that he could run out there almost every day. And they're starting to kind of narrow in on that. If you take a look at the numbers in April and May, 247 combined for the outfielders, 9 home runs, 40 RBIs. But just in the 3.5 weeks of June, 291, 8 home runs, so just 1 shy, and 34 RBIs coming out of those outfield positions. A big reason for that, the return of Cody Asche. As you mentioned, he has been very good. And Peter Bourjos just kind of exploding over the last couple of weeks and getting that batting average up as well. So Pete Mackanin looking for a combination of outfielders that, you know, he doesn't have to think every single day who is he going to put out there. He'd like to kind of run the same guys out there time in and time out. And again, he's starting to figure out that maybe the combination of Asche and Bourjos with Herrera in between is the best combination.
Strike 3 called. Asche's down looking, and there are 2 outs here in the 2nd inning. Cody having a word with the home plate umpire about that call. Actually looked like a pretty good pitch from Greinke. But Murph's right. You know, the explosion of Peter Bourjos has been just unbelievable. What do you think, Ben?
That's a strike. As much as I'd like to say it was not Cody, it was a good pitch.
Freddie Galvis takes a strike, and it's 0-1. Galvis, like Ruiz, has struggled against Greinke. Carlos is 0 for 15. Freddie Galvis is 0 for 11. A bit outside, 1 ball, 1 strike.
What makes someone like Greinke so infuriating is he doesn't light up the radar gun. You didn't come to expect it at times, and because he just flat out pitches. That's the way it would be against a Greg Maddux. When they miss small, and they miss down.
He's won 6 consecutive starts against the Phillies. We showed you that graphic about his month of June, where he's 4-0. He's trying to join Randy Johnson with 5 wins in the month. And a liner out towards short, picked on one hop and then dropped by Ahmed, and that'll be the first. Well, we'll see how it's scored. But
should be.
Might be the first hit for Freddie Galvis against Zack Greinke. If Ahmed fields this one on one hop, he has him at first, but depends on how the official scorer sees the hop. It has been scored a hit.
He does have to range to his right, get on the short hop. Now the ball wasn't scorched, but it was still on the line.
And now Cesar Hernandez, 3 for 5. All 3 of his hits last night came in his last 3 ABs. Check swing.
Well, if they gave the ball that Odubel hit to Ricky Weeks Jr. last night, if they gave that a hit, then that one that Freddie just hit was definitely a knock.
Well, here's what we're talking about with Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson was 5-1 in June of 2001. If Greinke wins tonight, he'll join him with those 5 victories. Outside, 1-1 to Cesar. And to say that the Diamondbacks were a little concerned after the first couple of starts, kind of an understatement, because he got hit around pretty good. Check swing. Oh, man. Lance Barrett says he went around, and now it's 1-2. It's close.
It is close.
Cracked out towards shortstop, and it's going to sneak into left center field. Ahmed was going to cover the bag, and the Phillies have first and third with 2 men down. I don't know if Cesar meant to do that, but it was the perfect spot to hit that ground ball.
Greinke's not very happy. That leads me to believe that
28, Jared Eichhoff.
Nick Ahmed believes this is supposed to be a fastball in, something in. You see Ahmed right here, and then the pitch is delivered. Freddie takes off. He's covering. That leads me to believe that the pitch was supposed to be inside. Therefore, Segura would stay at home. Most likely that Cesar would pull that pitch in the inside corner. Throws away, slapped it to the left.
That's interesting because it does change
It
throughout
does.
the at-bat, depending on what the infielders see. Here's Eichhoff, and he lines one into right field. A base hit. The Phillies take the lead. Cesar hesitated for a moment, now goes to third, and he is safe at third base. He was able to anchor it down, and for Jared Eichhoff, an RBI single, his 4th ribby of the year. It's 1-0 Phils.
It all started with a little harmless humpback liner to shortstop, Tom. Well done, Jared. Go up there, first pitch hacking. Inside out. Take it to right. I have no idea, Tom, what Cesar Hernandez was doing. Why you hesitate? Just go, man.
Just go.
If you get in that situation where there's any hesitation at all, just keep going.
And there's a delay right now because the Diamondbacks are reviewing this. And now they've decided finally that Cesar did get the hand in. Yeah, with Cesar's speed, I don't think there's any question he should be going on that. That was a good throw.
It's an excellent throw. And Cesar does do a very nice job of holding on to this bag.
Boy, that was really close. The fact that Lamb was up far, he had to reach back and try to apply the tag initially, and that's where I think he missed him.
That's what's great about baseball. You're at the bottom of the lineup, 7, 8, 9. There's 2 outs against the Cy Young Award winner, thinking, oh, let's chalk this one up, go get him next inning.
Odubel hits it back to the box, and Greinke flags it down. He's a Gold Glover, and he's able to grab that one. The Phils do get the run as they collect 3 straight hits. Jared Eichhoff provides the spark that leads to the score.
River Casinos game night.
Remembering Buddy Ryan.
Tomorrow on Breakfast on Broad, we'll look back at the impact Buddy had on the Eagles and football in Philadelphia.
Watch us tomorrow at 6 on the Comcast Network and streaming live on breakfastonbroad.com.
So what a shame. Buddy Ryan passed away earlier today. He had such a great impact on football as a whole, whether it be the Bears championship or eventually as the Eagles head coach. He certainly brought a personality to the Philadelphia Eagles. Our condolences to the Ryan family. I know he had been ill recently.
Yeah.
Both of his boys are coaching up in Buffalo now. Of course, Rex is the head coach. Rob is his defensive coordinator. Jared Eichhoff's RBI single has given the Phils a 1-0 lead. And he is just finishing up his warm-up tosses as we go to the bottom of the second. He'll face Jake Lamb, Yasmani Tomas, and Wellington Castillo. Dangle hats are here, Ben.
That's right.
Got to give them credit. It's what do they say, 109 outside?
Never be too warm here in the desert, Tom.
Because the air conditioning is always so high. Lamb was up when Segura was picked off first to finish up the first inning. So he'll get a fresh count. Pitch outside, 1 ball, no strikes. So he's already with 4 hits against Zach Greinke. Off speed pitch.
My changeup.
Did it bother you when some of your pitchers didn't throw a changeup?
Yes. Or not be willing to throw a changeup.
2 balls and 1 strike. I would be. It surprises me that there would be pitchers that wouldn't want to throw a changeup, or maybe they're just not confident to throw a changeup. Was that part of it?
I think the confidence was more so than being able to do it.
Slider, and that's in 2-2.
It's funny, we got got back to the limo or to the hotel last night.
You were in a limo?
No, I was not in a limo.
Oh.
But we got back to the hotel and we're talking with Bob McClure. We're talking with Bob McClure.
Good ball upstairs.
And I was telling him about, I would like that Vince Velasquez threw that changeup to righties last night. It wasn't just to lefties. He said, well, if it's a good pitch, then you should be able to throw it to both. It's just an old, I guess, faux pas, against some of the older pitchers in the league. And I said, I can't throw that. Can't do it. Right-handed, can't throw a right-handed changeup. I actually got to the White Sox, and I had a veteran pitcher, been in the league for probably 5 or 6 years, and I called a changeup with a righty up. He was a right-handed pitcher, and he called me out, and he goes, what's that? I said, a changeup. He goes, you can't throw a right-handed changeup to a right-handed hitter.
So Freddie Garcia did not want to throw a changeup.
It was
to a
not
right-handed
Big Fred. But I couldn't. I said, well, yeah. And then he started to have so much success with it that it actually, to a fault, he started to throw it way too much. And hitters started to look for it. But yeah, if it's a good pitch and it's efficient for you, then throw it.
Upstairs, ball 4. So the second walk issued by Eichhoff. And that'll bring Yasmani Tomas to the plate. Tomas last night was 1 for 4.
Right field, number 24, Yasmani Tomas.
Tomas hitting .257, 12 homers and 30 runs batted in. .387 against the Phils. That's gone down because of last night when he was 1 for 4. Thankfully. Good pitch. 80 miles an hour. That's the slider.
Yeah, he was not trying to shoot that ball to right. Watch this swing. This is, I'm going to hit it a mile.
He tried the curveball this time. And it's 1 ball, 1 strike. Diamondbacks as a team are hitting .267, third highest batting average in the National League. They've also picked up 253 extra base hits, which is also third highest in the National League. Over toward the hole, and that's a base hit for Tomas. That was a slider that was up. And that's the first hit of the evening given up by Jerad Eickhoff. This weekend, the Phils return home to take on the Royals, and then Friday and Saturday, the Xfinity fireworks shows will take place after the games. A reminder that Friday is a 7:05 start, and Saturday is a 5:50 start, so a little earlier start time. Tickets can still be purchased for both of those days. In fact, the whole 3-game series by going to Phillies.com. Now Wellington Castillo, who last night was hitless in 4 at-bats. So he's set up to try to turn 2. Fastball, and it's in there, 1-1.
Good spot.
Out toward right center field. Odubel coming on. He's not going to get there. A play it on the hop, rounding third, and then holding there is Jake Lamb. Matt Williams was all the way down toward home plate, and Lamb was looking for him. And the bases are now loaded with nobody out here in the second.
Better be safe than sorry if you're Jake Lamb. Not want to get doubled up in that situation. Odubel did everything he could. He just couldn't get there. Pitch up in the zone. Jake Lamb saying, Matty, where are you? How far down the line Matt Williams is.
Ben, I have a question for you.
Places.
Why was he that far down the line? And what was he doing?
You think it'd be on more of an angle, because if he's so close to the line, that's not where you're looking if you're a base runner. You're looking obviously more towards the third base coaching box.
Peter O'Brien, the batter, did not play last night, or did not hit last night. He did play, and he takes high 1-0. O'Brien hitting $140, 4 home runs. He has 7 hits since being called back up from the minor leagues. Since the 10th of June, the Diamondbacks are hitting well over 300 with runners in scoring position. Last night they didn't have a whole lot of opportunities with runners in scoring position.
No.
1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball inside, and 2-1.
Before the Phillies started to get their runs, the Phillies were 0 for 7 with runners in scoring position, and the Diamondbacks were only 0 for 1. So like you said, they didn't have a whole lot of opportunity.
Boy, a strikeout would be big here. I know that they'll take the double play ball, but a strikeout would be big with Greinke coming up. Mentioned before, the Diamondbacks 13-26 here at home. They average basically the same amount of runs, but they don't pitch the same. Their overall batting average is lower.
That's the thing, because I think this is a pretty power-packed lineup, and this is a great place to hit.
Dangerous lineup that's missing a couple of big pieces too. Got him. He went after a slider, and that's the first out. And with the bases loaded and one man down, Zack Greinke will be the batter.
That's a great play by Chooch. It does not feel good. But there's a great lateral movement he put on this baseball. Jarrett kind of spikes the slider, but Chooch gets out there and smothers it. And I know I touched on this last home series, but the way he's able to get over top of a baseball, and again, there's a fine line where you're not too far over where the ball bounces over your head, you're not too far upright where it's going to deflect off your chest protector.
Well, now Greinke, who's a good hitter, and he lines one to left field. Cody Ashley is there. He'll make the catch, tagging from third, and heading for home is Lamb, and he'll score. And it's a 1-1 ball game. Well, Greinke gets the RBI just as Eickhoff got the RBI in the top of the second inning.
Yeah, I think he's sitting on this pitch, to be honest with you, Tom, and he goes down and gets it and smokes it out to left field. Not a bad throw there by Cody. But take a look at the location on this pitch. He's out in front, goes down and smokes it to left. Cody just not able to get a whole lot behind that throw because it was hit on the line so much. I think if that ball's up in the air a bit more, he can get underneath it and get a little bit more momentum going towards home plate.
So we're tied up at 1. Here's Nick Ahmed. He was hitting .225, but all 4 of his home runs have come as the number 9 batter. Takes a breaking ball, and it's low, 1-0.
Leadoff walk scores, Tom.
Yep, Jake Lamb led off this inning with a walk and then came around to score on Zack Greinke's sacrifice fly. I think he's saying that it was a slider that he swung at.
It was.
Get out of this by allowing just the 1 run. I think the Phillies will take it after the bases were loaded.
A heartbeat.
One ball, 2 strikes, runners lead off. He does not go after the curve, and it's 2-2. Nick Ahmed, who played his college ball at UConn. He was raised in the New England area. He was a solid college player. Got him with a curveball, and the side is retired. So after the bases are loaded and nobody out, the Diamondbacks settle for 1. Phillies will take that. We'll head to the 3rd. It's a 1-1 game. Stump the Fans trivia question. Log on to Phillies.com. Go to the fans section for all the information, and please submit your answer on the subject line. All right, Ben, the question is, who holds the Diamondback single-season record for highest pinch hit batting average? The answer will be revealed a little later on. I think something's wrong with Zach Greinke. He just asked for Chip Hale and the athletic trainer to come out.
I think it's his back.
It looks like it might be his back, just because he was doing some bends. Saw Clayton Kershaw go back to Los Angeles the other day after his start against the Pirates because he has back issues. Interesting that Dale Scott is involved in this conversation. All right, he may be asking if he can go inside for something.
I think he's going to go inside and get adjusted.
Really?
I do.
Can you do that?
Apparently Dale Scott's letting him.
Well, here's Greinke warming up. He looks like he's a little tight right there. See, he's stretching a little bit. So he said something to the home plate umpire. He said something to the catcher, and then he asked for the athletic trainer to come out. Let's see if he changes anything as far as his shirt goes or anything like that.
I think he's going in to see a chiropractor and get adjusted by one of the trainers. I honestly do.
If that's what it is, I have never ever seen that.
I used to get adjusted during the game.
But did you call timeout in the middle of an inning to go do it?
No, I didn't.
Can't imagine that they would allow that. Here's Chip Hale going out to talk to Dale Scott. Randall Delgado was starting to swing his arms in the bullpen. Well, Greinke's coming back out. Maybe he did. Just needed somebody to crack his back, Ben. All right, so they're bringing the athletic trainer back out again. Greinke's going to throw a few pitches.
A different undershirt?
Got a bit of a grimace on his face. I don't know. He doesn't look like he's feeling that great. He just said it's tight. Well, that's it. He's going to check out of this ball game. So Zach Greinke's night is done, and the Diamondbacks will go to the pen. I would assume it's Randall Delgado who will come out and pitch. There is Delgado.
Swing.
Maybe he did. He could have. Greinke's out. We'll have a new pitcher when we return. Weekend home games. 4 tickets, 4 Hatfield hot dogs, and 4 Coca-Colas for $100. For more information and to order, visit the ticket section at Phillies.com. Zack Greinke's night is done after 2 innings and 4 hits and 1 run. And Randall Delgado will be the new pitcher. 34th game for Delgado. He's 1-1 with a 3.55 ERA. And he is on to face Peter Borges. Borges flied out to right field his first time up. And he pops it up. Goldschmidt over at first base. Well, this is a play where Odubel Herrera led off the game with an infield hit, and Greinke did a heck of a split to try to get the out. Maybe that's where he hurt himself.
Could have been. Maybe he just overswung when he on the sac fly. Doesn't take much for your back to tighten up, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Is his back? Didn't seem too concerned about it.
Maikel Franco fly to center his first time up. He lines that one into left field, a base hit. That's going to go to the wall. And Franco's on his way to second base, and he'll be there with his 12th double of the year.
Ball was scorched. It's amazing you game plan since your arrival in the clubhouse for one particular pitcher who you think is going to be in the ball game. First of many, just because of how good a pitcher he is. You get one at bat, and then you have to go game plan again. It seemed to work for Maikel there.
Ryan Howard struck out his first time up, and Howard waves at the first pitch. Career numbers against Randall Delgado, who the Phillies have seen not only with the Diamondbacks but also when he was with the Braves. More so here with Arizona. 1 ball and 1 strike to Howard. And Ryan holds up, and it's 2-1. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, Giancarlo Stanton has hit a 2-run home run, his 15th of the year, but so has Miguel Cabrera hit a home run. His was a 3-run shot. Detroit defeated Miami 7-5. Mike Pelfrey his second win. Marlins moved into second place after yesterday's game as Howard takes low, ball 4. Marlins are now 4 games back, even with the Mets. Mets and the Nationals are in the 4th inning in their ball game. Phillies trying to get some breathing room between themselves and the Braves, who are in last place. Braves had cut the lead to, or cut the deficit for 4th place to 5. Carlos takes, and it's 1-0.
Chooch is thinking now, when am I going to get that first hit against Zack Greinke? Have to wait another turn.
Carlos takes inside, 2-1. Delgado, when he was acquired by the Diamondbacks from the Atlanta Braves, they had every intention of putting him into the starting rotation. And it just didn't work out. For whatever reason, in the big leagues, it was even before Chip Hale arrived. But for whatever reason, in the big leagues, he just wasn't getting acclimated to being a starting pitcher.
Apparently he's not acclimated to working quickly either.
Ruiz fouls it over the head of Juan Samuel, and it's 2-2. Phillies fans, next time you want to find seats that you like, get the StubHub app. Not only will you find seats you'll love whenever you want, you can find the best seat for your buck when you sort by best value. We take the price and location of seats and show you which tickets at StubHub give you the best deal. So get the StubHub app today. Carlos fouls it back to the screen. Delgado last year in 64 games, 1 spot start. He kind of found his niche. He had 8 wins and an ERA of 3.25. And between he and Colementor, both are kind of the long men for this Diamondbacks team, and Colementor pitched last night. And Ruiz went around, and he is struck out. 2 outs with runners on first and second.
Chooch gets stuck in the middle here. He goes after it aggressively out of Delgado's hand. Realizes it's not something he wants to offer at, and just cannot hold up.
Cody went down looking his first time up. Ashe is 14 for his last 41. And with that, he has picked up 8 doubles. 14 for his last 41. Just a hair under 350. Fouls it away, and it's 0-2. Howard at first base, Franco at second base. Zach Greinke left this game as the inning began. No balls, 2 strikes to Cody Ashe, and Ashe fouls it away again. Same pitch that Cody was called out on in his last at bat. That one was a little tighter. The catcher Wellington Castillo moved his glove a tad.
Both similar. You get called out in your first at bat. You're thinking maybe I should pull the trigger on this one, but you're right. Castillo does bring it back a bit.
Got to try to work it inside. He's thrown 20 pitches since the inning began. Swing and a miss. Got him with a changeup, and the side is retired. Delgado on for Zach Greinke. Works the side, the leadoff or the one-out double by Maikel Franco leaves a couple. We'll head to the bottom of the third. It's a 1-1 game between the Phils and the Diamondbacks. Dealers. Hurry to your local Del Val Honda dealer. Visit DelValHondaDealers.com. By Jefferson. Call 800-JEF now or visit jefferson.edu. And by Chevrolet. Visit your local dealer at ChevyDealer.com. Oh, either Jimmy Paredes or Andres Blanco are getting some lizard skin put on their bat. But they are working it together. As we start the third, Jean Segura takes up high. 1 ball, no strikes. 1-1 game. Segura walked his first time up and was picked off. That's a hot shot back toward the middle, a base hit. That just hugged the ground. Segura has his second hit of the series. And he's aboard for Michael Bourn.
Michael Bourn.
The bat is ready to go. It's an art, Ben, to be able to get that perfect and then also to relace a glove or something like that.
That's one thing I'm good at.
Relacing gloves?
Oh, very good at it. You got to find something to do when you're on the bench all the time, Tom.
I thought the trainers always did it too. I mean, were there guys that just did it besides the trainers?
The only trainer I ever had that did it was my A-ball trainer. That was it.
Scott Sheridan usually defers to Sean Ficasny when it comes to relacing gloves, or Chris Mudd. I think Chris Mudd. Mark Anderson, who used to be the Phillies athletic trainer when Jeff Cooper was the head athletic trainer, he used to do it all the time. No balls, 1 strike to Michael Bourn.
One thing I did learn over the years, though, what tool to use. I never used that restringer with the little eyelet in the end.
What
with
did
the
you
red
use?
handle? I used the hemostat.
Oh, okay.
I asked the trainers for a hemostat, and you could hold on to the leather, clamp it together, and you just pull it through. You wouldn't have to worry about it coming through that little hole that that little tool had.
I use the tool.
I don't like the tool. But they love the lizard skins, though. They do. Why couldn't we invent that?
Do a brainstorming session. Come up with something that baseball oriented that you can market.
How much smoke would be coming out of my ears?
Segura's already been picked off one time. His lead is a little shorter this time. Bourne stays alive. Michael Bourne flied out to Odubel Herrera his first time up. Odubel has him shaded over toward left center a little bit. A breaking ball and a called strike 3. That's the first strikeout he's gotten with the curveball tonight.
And he knew it.
Michael Bourne heads back. Goldschmidt's coming up. Phillies fans, the 2016 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot is here. Head to Phillies.com to choose your hashtag ASG worthy stars and send them to the MLB All-Star Game presented by MasterCard on July 12th in San Diego. Vote today, vote tomorrow. Vote at Phillies.com/votes. Goldschmidt takes a breaking ball. That's the curve that froze him the first time these two teams faced each other.
And it just buckled him right there.
Goldschmidt lined out to right field. Peter Borges tracked it down.
Goldschmidt very similar in his setup to Buster Posey. In fact, they get in the box. They have the bat pretty much just draped over their shoulder downwards. Now Buster got in the problem a couple years ago when it got too far down. Basically, he was using it as a back scratcher. So he has since moved it up a bit, but Goldschmidt really does have that bat behind his back. Doesn't matter where you start. It matters where you get, how quickly you can get it to the point of contact.
He's a much bigger guy than Posey is.
Yeah. You see how he just puts it down over his shoulder blade. But when he gets it cocked and in that ready position, he's ready to go.
Would you go after him with that curveball again here?
I'd probably do it now, because if you throw a pitch in, then he's going to be sitting on it unless you can double or triple up on the fastball in.
In the dirt, he decided to go with a slider. Two balls and two strikes.
Would you like to see him hook there?
I would have liked to see him hook there. I mean, you know better than I do, but I would think that the hook would be the better choice. Looks like he's going to go fastball away. And it's hit out towards second base on one hop. That should be two. There's one and two. 4-6-3 double play, and the inning is over. So Goldschmidt hits it to the double play to wrap up the third. We'll head to the fourth in a 1-1 game.
prices on water, cooler rentals, and hidden fees. Call WB Mason and order all natural Blizzard spring water available in 5-gallon bottles and small packs at a price you will love. Exclusively from who but WB Mason.
Nicely done, Ben Davis.
Thanks, Tom.
Top of the 4th inning, Freddie Galvis will lead it off. Galvis scored the only run for the Phils. That was against Zach Greinke. The starter for the Diamondbacks left after 2 innings. We have not received a report just yet as to why he left. And Randall Delgado, who pitched the 3rd, will now begin the 4th inning. And Galvis bunts over the screen. And it's 0-1. Freddie has 8 hits on this road trip. The base hit that he picked up in the 2nd was only his 2nd hit so far against the Diamondbacks. He is now 2 for 19 against them. One ball and 2 strikes. On the Toyota Major League scoreboard, the Cleveland Indians have won 11 straight. They defeated the Braves 5-3. They're now 46-30. Corey Kluber is now 8-7. Arodys Vizcaíno suffered the loss. He's 1-3. Kluber went 8 innings. That win streak is the longest for the Indians since 1982. I wonder if they can continue to run the table in the American League Central. They're up 5.5 games over the Royals. Galvis fires it foul over the D-backs dugout. We saw the Indians earlier this year. I did not think that they would be atop that division at this point. Phillies swept them. Galvis punches it the other way. That's a fair ball down the left field line, and Freddie's going to get at least 2 out of this one. And he'll stop at second base with his 13th double of the year.
It's a fair ball and a thing of beauty. I think Freddie was looking for that front door sinker. 2-2 count here, and he just fillets it to left field.
Almost looked like he meant to do it. I know he didn't mean to do it, but it looked like he meant to do it. Well, now Cesar Hernandez, who singled his first time up.
Either way, he's 2 for 2.
Cesar bunts. All right, did he do that on his own?
I think so.
With Eickhoff in the on-deck circle?
I think so.
Would you have done that on your own?
No.
Wish I could read Larry Bowa's lips. Well, I could see him shaking his head. 0-2. Over to the right side. Well, that will get the runner over. Goldschmidt bare hands, tosses to Delgado. They throw to third, and Galvis is coming home, and he's caught between third and home plate. Boy, this poor base running for the Phillies, which has been a stigmatism this entire year, continues.
Delgado comes bouncing off the first base bag, and he heaves it. I said, what is he doing? Well, now I know.
Freddie should have just kept going to the plate, honestly. Once he got that far off the third base bag, forced Lamb to make the throw.
So Freddie can. When he gets in a pickle, you're right. Then once he starts going, just go.
There's a number of things that you have to fix during a baseball season, and the base running, it's up to the base running. But they've got to fix this, because even on this road trip alone, there's just been too many mistakes. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And the other thing is, you're at third base with 1 out.
With 1 out.
And your pitcher just had an RBI single his last time up. There's a myriad of ways they could score. You could do the safety squeeze, which they've been so good at the first 3 months of the season. Jarrett could get another hit, sac fly, wild pitch.
Two balls and no strikes, and it's chopped foul. It's 2-1.
But where's he going?
And he came around that bag a little far. And Delgado did make a very good throw, but Freddie was way off the bag. Over towards shortstop. Ahmed's got it. And the inning is over. So the Phils do get the leadoff double, but do not score. We will head to the bottom of the 4th inning. It's the Phillies 1 and the Diamondbacks 1. Buy Toyota. Visit buyatoyota.com to find your RAV4 today. Toyota, let's go places. Let's go Phils. Bottom of the 4th inning. It's a 1-1 game. There's the pull. Murph is going to go in tomorrow. A little crowded tonight.
Yes, it is.
Phillies scored a run in there half of the 2nd. And the Diamondbacks answered in the bottom of the 2nd inning. And now as we go to the bottom of the 4th, Randall Delgado talking in the dugout with Wellington Castillo. He's on to relief of Zach Greinke, so he has 2 scoreless innings so far. So Lamb will lead it off here in the bottom of the 4th. Lamb walked and scored the run for the Diamondbacks in the 2nd. So you're talking to Dave Magadan today. What were you guys chatting about?
Oh, the good old days. Now, Mags and I were talking for a while. He was one of my favorite teammates of all time. I came up and he was obviously a veteran and really took me under his wing. And
the ball is ripped to right field. Well, here's one of the guys that he's helped this year. And that's Jake Lamb. The ball hits a post and Lamb's around second base thinking 3. And he's going to wind up getting there easily. Unfortunate that the ball did hit that post, but Lamb, hustling all the way, has his 5th triple of the season. Came out and it hit one of the posts right there.
First pitch swinging as Jake Lamb's pitch supposed to be in. You can see it's middle. Does not miss it. Shoots it down the right field line, and you're right, it does get caught up right there. Peter Bourjos unable to get to it. Nothing Cesar can do either. Easy triple for Lamb.
So runner at third with nobody out. Yasmani Tomas, the batter. Tomas singled his last time up. Whacks that one up the third base line, foul, and it's 0-1. Tomas is just below the major league average and getting runners home for third with less than 2 outs. Curveball, and it's 0-2. Fly ball short right field. Bourjos comes in, tagging from third is Lamb. Bourjos makes the catch, and they draw the throw. Yeah, there's one away. If your employees are on the road as much as the Phillies are, protect them with Independence Blue Cross. They're part of a national system of Blue Cross and Blue Shield plans that cover more than 100 million members across the country. Live fearless. Learn more at ibx.com/biz. Wellington Castillo is the hitter. Castillo also singled his last time up. Midfield is in. Breaking ball is over.
Dave and I were talking today, and one number he threw out at me. He said, this ball club strikes out a lot. We witnessed that at Citizens Bank Park last weekend. But he dropped a number on me, and I'm still kind of in disbelief. So they've had over 700 at bats as a team. They strike out a lot. 22% of those at bats have resulted in an 0-2 count. 22%.
That's a lot.
He said, Ben, you get 22%. He goes, 0-2 count, you're going to strike out, especially with the stuff that these pitchers have. That blew me away.
Curveball, that's in. 1-2. So does he want his hitters then to be more aggressive before it gets to 2 strikes?
No, because he says they're over aggressive. They're up there swinging. Next thing you know, it's 0-2. They're just swinging at anything. Yes, they will hit the long ball. And he also said there's no difference in the swing 0-2 or 3-1. It's the same swing.
I think that's an epidemic around baseball.
Yes.
1-2 pitch. Got him. Back-to-back strikeouts. There you go. It certainly works in the Phillies' favor there. 4 strikeouts now for Eickhoff.
Well, if he can get out of this, be awesome. Leadoff triple. A short little pop up to Peter and right, then the strikeout. It's another curveball.
All right, so we're in the 4th inning here. There's 2 outs. You've got Delgado in the on-deck circle. I mean, do you just walk Peter O'Brien here, or do you go after Peter O'Brien here? I know it's early in the game. It's just the bottom of the 4th inning. You're working against the bullpen of the Diamondbacks.
Now they're going to walk him.
I heard the whistle in the background. So they will walk Peter O'Brien intentionally.
Nothing against Pete. I don't like it because it is the 4th inning. And you have a guy that strikes out a ton at home plate, and you have a strikeout pitcher on the mound.
Pete talking to Bob McClure.
You got O'Brien already in the second inning with a strikeout. But Delgado obviously doesn't get a whole lot of at-bats. We'll see how it plays out.
So an intentional walk, and here is Randall Delgado, who's batting, Murph, for Zach Greinke.
You're right, Tom. Zach Greinke leaving this game earlier with what we assumed was an injury, and that has been confirmed. He left with tightness in his left oblique. So that is why he has left the game. I'm sure he is going to be reevaluated tomorrow. But those oblique injuries, they can be difficult to come back from if it's more than just a little tightness. So they're being very careful with Zach Greinke.
Well, you wonder, he had the sacrifice fly.
I think he did on the swing.
And his at bat, is that when he did it? The sac fly in the second inning. Delgado takes a curveball, and it's, I guess, high. 1 ball and no strikes. Delgado has 1 at bat this year. Swing and a miss, 1-1. For his career, he has 14 at bats and 14 hits and 2 RBIs. That ball's hit sharply to third, gobbled up by Franco. And the inning is over. So the intentional walk leads Jerad Eickhoff through the 4th after allowing a leadoff triple. We'll head to the 5th inning. It's still 1-1, the Phils and the Diamondbacks. Your GMC Precision plays of the game. You just watched Jerad Eickhoff get through after allowing a leadoff triple.
And that is pitching at its finest right there to Tomasa. Just a shallow fly ball to right field. Only thing Castillo can't hold up on the curveball. And then a hanger, which he gets away with. Delgado hits it to Maikel Franco to get out of the inning. That is your GMC Precision plays of the game.
Heavy lifting for Jerad Eickhoff. So now we begin the 5th inning, and Odubel Herrera will lead it off. Hitting for the first time against Randall Delgado. Odubel is 1 for 2. $14 hits in his last 42 at bats. Outside, 1 ball and no strikes. Phillies and the Diamondbacks will wrap up this road trip tomorrow before the Phillies head home. Off day on Thursday. Goldschmidt fades back and grabs it. 3-1 on the putout.
And he's good over there.
Right fielder Peter Gorges.
forget, tomorrow we'll be on the air at 3:30 Eastern Time, 12:30 local time. First pitch is 12:40. Here's Peter Bourjos. Peter was born in Chicago, but by the time he was 2 years old, his family had moved to the Phoenix area. His dad is a major league scout currently with the San Diego Padres, and his coverage area includes the Diamondbacks. So he is using this series to not only catch up with his son, but also to watch the Diamondbacks. Peter said it's always good to come home. He said, I've never been in the West, the National League West, so I've only been to Phoenix one time a year. He takes it on the inside corner, 1-1. So it was nice to spend a couple days in his own bed. He was an outstanding prep player in the Phoenix area at Notre Dame Prep. Talked to him today about his team. We mentioned that Bob Brenly's son was on his team. He said Brooke Jacoby's son was on his high school team. So for a couple of years we were pretty good.
I can imagine.
Swing and a miss. It gets away, and Bourjos is going to get to first base. It'll be a strikeout wild pitch. The 20th wild pitch of the season, while Wellington Castillo is back behind the plate.
He slams the ball down over there on the on-deck circle, throws it back in the dugout. But I got to see this. This happened last night. That's not a good position to block the baseball. You're slamming the ball down over on the third baseline. It's different if you get in the proper position. Both knees have to hit the ground at the same time. You get down on one, you're going to be askew at home plate. The ball's going to deflect exactly the way it did.
Did that bother you when you hit a wild pitch?
If I went at it like that, if I got lazy on it like that, yes. Because I know that guy on the mound's busting his tail, makes a pitch, strikes a guy out, but I don't do my part to block it. You got to be up higher. You got to get your rear in the air a bit higher, like Chooch does. It's over top of it. You ever seen Chooch do that?
Not like that.
Honestly,
no.
Have you?
No. But I think he's a rare breed. Bourjos short lead off first. He goes. The pitch is a strike, and so is the throw to second base. I think somebody missed a sign there.
Yes.
Peter's looking over to Juan Samuel in the third base coach's box because he did not get a jump that would lead you to believe that it was a straight steal, or that it was, that it was a straight steal.
Amazing throw, though.
Phillies are reviewing it because Bourjos thinks his foot got in there ahead of the tag. The throw definitely beat the tag. Now they say nope, he's out. That was an excellent throw. No balls and one strike now to Franco.
That's a lot to write in one little square.
Okay, wild pitch, CS.
Caught stealing 2-4. Block that one.
Hurt himself too.
Better technique.
down the left field line. Sounds like Franco's going to need a new bat. And that is foul into the seats.
I've seen a lot of broken bat foul balls where the hitters had to go back and get a new bat and then come back to the batter's box. Usually if you break a bat, it's going to be you're going to put it in play. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with you on
It happened
that.
a number of times in AT&T Park in San Francisco.
I think sometimes, to me, it happens. You would think it would happen more like that, though, where it's on the hands or on the end of the bat. If you're out in front of it, if you're going to pull it.
Oh
That ball is hit well, deep to left field. Going back on it is O'Brien. It is gone. A solo home run for Maikel Franco. It's his 13th of the year, and the Phillies retake the lead.
Way to go, Diane. Listen to those Phillies fans.
There are a lot of them over the
Ton of
first
them here.
base dugout.
Baseman Ryan Howard.
And Diane Angstad of Merchtown, you just won $200 thanks to Maikel Franco and the McDonald's home run jackpot.
Oh. You talk about a hagger. But that's a good adjustment on Maikel's part because we've seen him get hangers like that and he overswings. That time, no. Took the same fluid swing.
Ryan Howard flips it foul. And it's 0-1. Franco now with 13 home runs this year in his 73rd game. Last year, before the injury, he had 14 home runs in 80 games. He also had 50 RBIs in 80 games. He has 41 now. Ball's rolled over to the right side. Segura is up with it. And the inning is over. But the Phillies retake the lead. Maikel Franco to left center field. He got a hanging breaking pitch and he did not miss it. He crushed it to left center field. So the Phils score a run here in the 5th. It's 2-1. Phillies on top as we go to the bottom of the 5th. League report. Citizens Bank. The next time you have a question about money, don't keep it to yourself. Ask a citizen. Well, Adonis Medina has yet to allow a run in 21 innings for the Williamsport Crosscutters. And the Phillies also, look at these numbers by Dylan Cousins and Rhys Hoskins. 20 home runs each. The only team in pro ball this season with 2 players with 20 or more home runs. And the Reading Titans, they have the best record in pro ball. And then earlier today, Dylan Cousins and Ricardo Pinto were named to represent the Phillies in this year's Futures game. Reading is at the top of the 9th in their game. They're up 7-1, so that could be 55 wins. As Nick Ahmed fouls the first pitch from Jerad Eickhoff, and it's 0-1. Ahmed struck out his first time up. It's 0-2. Ahmed is saying that it hit him in the elbow pad. No, maybe it did hit the elbow pad. Maybe that was the sound. Boy, it sounded like a bat, but
it sure did.
Maybe it was the elbow pad. Home plate umpire said okay. Take a look.
This ball really gets away from Jared. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the elbow pad.
He just hit that hard plastic on the outside of it.
And Ahmed is okay. Chappelle and the athletic trainer come out to take a look at him.
Now you know why he wears it.
Second baseman, Gene Segura.
So base runner for the Diamondbacks to start the 5th, and Gene Segura will be the batter. Segura singled his last time up and walked the time before. Fastball up and in, 1 ball, no strikes. Jared has not had a clean inning tonight. He's working with base runners each inning so far. Segura bunts and foul, 1-2.
Like he was trying to push that one to the left of Jared Eickhoff out towards Cesar Hernandez.
Andrew Chafin is the lefty warming up in the bullpen for the Diamondbacks. They've already used Rendell Delgado tonight in relief of the injured Zach Greinke, who left with an oblique strain. Delgado's at 48 pitches. 2-2 pitch now to Segura. Carlos has his hands on his hips as he shows a little body language of disgust there. Runner goes, pitches lined into center field, a base hit. Ahmed's on his way to third. He'll get there. Now the Diamondbacks with first and third and nobody out.
I guess that 2-2 to Segura was low, but
Carlos just said something to the home plate umpire as he went back toward home plate. And Michael Bourne will now be the hitter. Here's the previous pitch that we're talking about. Across the front knee, but it didn't go across the back knee. It was below the back knee. Bourne takes strike one. It's 0-1. He has flied out to center field. He has gone down looking. Oh, and 2. That stays at third base. Segura broke off first, but then went back. They immediately checked to see if Michael Bourn went around on that swing. Third base umpire said he did not, so it's 1 ball and 2 strikes. Got him. Got it with a curveball. That has been a money pitch again tonight. And Eickhoff now with 5 strikeouts. Goldschmidt's coming up.
It's just an overhand hammer. Eickhoff and Chooch did a very nice job of setting up Goldschmidt his last at bat, inducing him into a 4-6-3 double play. Love to see another one.
Phillies will set up to try to turn 2 with runners on first and third.
My sequence, if I remember correctly, he went first pitch curveball, fastball in, slider in the dirt, fastball away, 4-6-3.
They've got a piece of Goldschmidt's foot as he fouls it off. 0-1. Phillies with 2 runs on 7 hits. The D-backs with 1 run on 5 hits. Curveball. Boy, that's a beauty. That is a beauty.
Buckled him again.
Maybe you should have saved it for 2 strikes.
Just watch Goldschmidt's reaction. Whoop.
They're going to work it away. The 0-2 pitch away. Outside, 1-2. Got him. Foul tip hung onto by Ruiz. Back-to-back strikeouts, and that's a big one right there. And there are 2 outs, and Jake Lamb is coming up.
Can he do it 2 innings in a row? Goldschmidt has to swing at it. See him get tied up there. A bit tardy on that fastball.
Well, now a tough hitter in Lamb. Lamb has walked, and he tripled his last time up. You got an idea on how to get him out?
Paint away like that.
Starts him off a little paint, makes the count 0-1. No balls, 1 strike. Runners lead off. Up high, 1-1. Back toward the middle, and it's right there to Galvis, who was shaded that way, and the inning is over. He leaves 2 more. He has left 6 runners so far in tonight's ball game, as Eickhoff somehow works out of a jam after 2 runners start the inning by getting on base. of the week is having fun while putting together a fantastic and productive month of June. Peter got off to a slow start this season, but he is making up for it as we head toward the All-Star break. Borges isn't in the lineup every day, but when he is, he's been delivering an average in the high 300s for most of the month and is cashing in with runners in scoring position. His speed can lead to problems for opposing teams. It has been recently, and it's brought to you by Independence Blue Cross. Live fearless. Peter Borges is hitless in tonight's ball game, but the Phillies offense leads it 2-1. Andrew Chafin will be the new pitcher for the Diamondbacks. This will be his 29th game. 0-1 with a 7.65 ERA. He's taking Teal Tuesdays to a whole new level with the socks high up with the stripes, the teal stripes around those black socks. And he will face Carlos Ruiz, Cody Asche, Freddie Galvis. Well, Jared Eickhoff has been sort of a magician here tonight. Can't say he's doing it with mirrors at all. I mean, he's letting runners get on base, but then he's just pitching his way out of those jams. Carlos takes strike one. It's 0-1.
He's what? He's
pitching.
He's pitching. It's awesome.
And Carlos is hit by that pitch, so he'll go to first. So the Phillies have a base runner.
Left fielder Cody Asche.
So Carlos is aboard. Carlos Murph 0 for 2 tonight, playing again for Cameron Rupp. They'd love to have Rupp's offense in there every single night, but they do like the way Carlos calls pitches with some of these young guys.
Yeah, kind of an unconventional way to get on base for Carlos Ruiz, but he'll take it. But yeah, Pete Mackanin saying yesterday that Carlos was going to catch tonight, and he said, like, I want to find him more playing time. Early in the season, it was about 4-1, 3-2, Cameron Rupp getting most of the playing time, but Pete Mackanin said yesterday that's going to change a little bit because he wants to see Carlos working with some of these young pitchers, and because Carlos, when he's in there, has been producing offensively. In fact, if you look at the two numbers combined with Cameron Rupp's numbers, Carlos Ruiz's numbers, in a platoon situation, getting pretty good production out of their catching position. 10 home runs, 28 RBIs, 17 doubles at this point in the season, most of those belonging to Cameron Rupp, but the numbers are there for a solid catcher production. And Pete has said that, you know, if you mix the two together, a little bit better defense from Carlos Ruiz, better offense from Cameron Rupp, but we're going to see Chooch a little bit more, guys.
Well, Carlos, as we said, hitless tonight, but on base after being hit by a pitch. You know, I understand what Pete's saying, but I think it's awfully hard to take Cameron Rupp's bat out of this lineup.
Couldn't agree with you more, Tom. He leads the team in doubles.
If Cam wasn't hitting, and if he wasn't, you know, throwing accurately to second base, now again, you know better about, you know, game calling. Carlos definitely calls the game better, and it's more experience than anything else. But with the Phillies offense that's struggling offensively, as much as we love Chooch, it's really hard to keep Cam's bat out of that lineup.
You don't know that necessarily he calls that much of a better game. Maybe Cameron's putting down what he feels to be the right pitches, the right signs, but the pitchers just aren't executing. There's plenty of times I got blamed for a pitch. I said, you know, I'd go in and my pitching coach or my manager even, you know, I did very heated discussions with my managers, Lou Piniella being one of them. He goes, you know, you can't do that. I said, well, if he would have executed the pitch in the proper location, you know, you can't really always put that on a catcher. Do pitchers feel more comfortable with the catcher? Yes, it does happen.
Yeah, and I think he does look more comfortable with Jared Eickhoff. I mean, I do. And I think Jared could pitch to anybody, but I do think Carlos has done good work with him. That's looped out towards center, but Bourne's going to track it down. And he makes the catch for the second out. But Murph is right. Pete's been talking about that he wants to get Carlos some more ABs. But I think in the long run, the way Cam, particularly lately, is swinging the bat, really hard to keep him out of this lineup, particularly if it's a lefty that you're facing and you're going to have, let's say, Cody Asche out of the lineup. Here's Cesar. Cesar is 1 for 2. He has singled. He's also grounded out.
Yes, and it is understandable to say that because you do have such a core of young pitchers. But you also want to find a happy medium there where Cameron Rupp doesn't lose his
swagger,
being hot at the plate. I mean, he's doing
right
some
now.
damage right now.
Well, he'll be in there tomorrow with Zach Eflin on the hill. 2 balls and no strikes to Cesar Hernandez. Cesar singled his first time up and then grounded out to first. There's Zach.
He brought his bat out for batting practice today. I said, "Is he going to do some damage today?" And he said, "I'm going to hit some homers." I said, "We'll get to it then."
Over to second base. And Segura is up with it. And the side is retired. No runs, no hits, and 1 man left. We played 5.5 on to the bottom of the 6th. It's the Phillies 2. Diamondbacks 1. By WB Mason. You can't go wrong when you buy right. Buy Nissan. Shop ChooseNissan.com. And buy Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Bottom of the 6th inning. It's 2-1. Which hat should we choose, Ben?
That one.
That guy's been cheering all night. He's going to use that as a pillow in a few minutes.
Yeah, he is. Dad, can I borrow your shoulder for the rest of the game?
He does look like he's worn down, doesn't he? Home half of the 6th inning, the Phillies lead it 2-1. Jared Eickhoff will face Yasmani Tomas, Wellington Castillo, and Peter O'Brien.
It's 11:46 his time, Tom.
Very well could be. Tomas is singled. He's also flied out to right field. Off speed pitch, and it's 0-2. In the dirt, 1 ball and 2 strikes. Breaking ball, and the home plate umpire flinched a bit on that one, but it's 3-2. It looked like it may have tailed outside. 6 strikeouts so far tonight for Eickhoff. fly ball to deep left center field, and this game is tied up. That shot goes onto the concourse in left center field.
Yeah,
and it's a 2-2 ball game.
That was a big one.
Yasmani Tomas with just his 3rd home run here at home.
Well, you asked me earlier what was Dave Mag and I talking about. We're talking about some of his hitters and the strength that Tomas has. He says he gets into reps where he just overswings. He says he is so strong, Ben. Literally, all he has to do is tap it. Just tap it. He is that strong. You saw it there.
Boy, to Castillo now the hitter. He's 1 for 2. He takes a strike and it's 0-1. Well, he got some new life on the 2-2 pitch that wasn't called strike 3, and after fouling a few pitches off, he then crushed one. That is well over 400 feet. Inside, 1 ball, 1 strike. Under 2 pitches for Jerad Eickhoff so far. That is the area where that baseball went. Out there. That'll loop out to left center field for a base hit. So Castillo's aboard. Let's see what Pete's going to do here. He's got 2 guys warming up in the bullpen. He's got Oberholzer and David Hernandez both warming up. And now meeting out of the mound to give those guys some extra time to get themselves ready to go. And Peter O'Brien due up for the Diamondbacks. Monday, July 4th, the Phillies will take on the Atlanta Braves. It's part of a 3-game series. July 4th's game is at 4:05. Wednesday, the 6th, is a 1:05 Citizens Bank Business Person Special. Tickets can be purchased at any time by going to Phillies.com. So here's Peter O'Brien. He struck out his first time up, intentionally walked his last time.
Gary, with 105 pitches, this is where your conditioning comes in. If you're tired, you might start to elevate some balls, but if you do your work in between starts, it's where you trust yourself. You know how hard Jared works. No way he wants to come out of this one.
Buchanan's coming out, so it looks like they're going to make a double switch. That's why Eickhoff was thrown over to first base a couple of times just to buy some extra time. Andres Blanco will check in for the Phils. Cesar Hernandez will check out. So Pete has seen enough, and he will go to the bullpen here in the bottom of the 6th inning. A run is in to tie this game up at 2, and a base runner. We'll be back right after this. Eagles and their fans, but his impact is still being felt on the Philadelphia sports landscape as a whole. Take a look back at his legacy on Breakfast on Broad tomorrow at 6 on the Comcast Network and streaming live on breakfastonbroad.com. Game tied at 2, and Pete Buchanan makes a pitching change and a change at second base. Andres Blanco comes on to play second base. There's Andres, and David Hernandez will come on to pitch. So Hernandez will bat in Cesar Hernandez's spot, and Blanco will bat in the pitcher spot, facing Peter O'Brien. David Hernandez, who pitched here with the Arizona Diamondbacks. In fact, that's where the Phillies picked him up from when they signed him as a free agent. A high pop-up. Andres Blanco says he has it. What a way. So Blanco gets challenged right away. So 1 out, and Phil Gosselin will come up as a pinch hitter for the Diamondbacks. Gosselin is one of the better pinch hitters in the league this year. He has 10 hits. As you see Hernandez's numbers with the Diamondbacks.
Talked to Phil today.
How's he doing?
Doing great. Such a nice kid. He really is. I didn't even know, but he played against my brother in the Westchester Adult League.
While he was playing in college?
No, he was still in high school.
Oh.
He was still at Malvern Preparatory School. He was asking about my brother Glenn, and he's just a really, really nice kid.
Did you tell him that your brother's part of the telecast most nights?
I left that one out, Tom.
You didn't tell him that he helps you out with the Jeep Stump the Fans trivia question? You're going to need his help tonight.
No, that's an easy one.
Because he's already texted you.
No, because he's a former teammate of mine.
Oh. No balls and 2 strikes to Gosselin. Overall hitting .257 in the dirt, backhanded by Ruiz, and it's 1-2.
Phil making his residence out here now. He said it's great because you go to spring training, you're in your place, and then the season starts in your same place.
Good point.
It is.
Ball and 2 strikes. And a strike 3 call. So Gosselin's down looking. And there are 2 outs here in the 6th inning. Pretty good life on that pitch from David Hernandez.
Well, the life was good, but the location was just a perfect pitch. Nothing you're going to be able to do with it. If you do hit it, paint. I think Phil may have been looking for that slider as well.
Well, Nick Ahmed will now be the batter. He was hit by pitches last time up and then struck out. 2-2 game. Each team with 7 hits. Pitches inside and low, 1-0. Tyler Clippard, the veteran, warming up in the bullpen. Way outside. Jared Eickhoff is credited with 5+ innings tonight, responsible for the runner over at first. Down the right field line, out of play. The home run tonight by Yasmani Tomas ended a string of 60 straight innings where the Phillies pitchers had not allowed a home run. For the Diamondbacks as a team, that was their 93rd home run of the year. Two balls, one strike. And a liner to center field. That'll be in for a base hit. Castillo will stop at second. The D-backs now with first and second with two men down. And back to the top of the order for Jean Segura.
Now batting, second baseman, Segura.
Segura has 2 hits tonight. He's also walked in the ball game. His average up to 315. Outside, and it's 1 ball and no strikes.
See, that's the move. Unless you're totally uncomfortable with the catcher and what sign he's putting down, Castillo's not going anywhere at second base. So I'm going to put all my effort and energy into getting Jean Segura out right here.
There's a wicked slider right there. Down the right field line, out of play. It's even now, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yasmani Tomas talking about his power in this inning. Got him. A fastball cut on and missed, and Hernandez gets out of a jam here in the bottom of the 6th inning. The Diamondbacks do tie it up on the home run, but they leave 2 more. Tomas's blast makes it a 2-2 game as we go to the 7th. Delaware Valley Honda Dealers game summary. Well, the Phillies gave up a home run in the bottom of the 6th inning that tied this game up at 2. Jared Eickhoff goes 5+ innings, has 6 strikeouts. He provided the spark that scored the first run, and then Zach Greinke, who left after 2 innings, tied the game up in the 2nd. It was Manny Tomas's home run, his 13th. It's his 3rd here at Chase Field. So now as we go to the top of the 7th inning, the veteran Tyler Clippard, 2-3 with a 3.18 ERA, will come into the ball game. Give some credit to Randall Delgado and Andrew Chafin. They've combined for 1 earned run in 4 innings of relief for Zach Greinke. David Hernandez got through that 6th inning. Pretty good chance that he's going to go out again in the 7th. We'll see if anybody gets up when there's an out recorded. Andres Blanco leads it off for the Phils. And Blanco takes outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Blanco hitting .266, 3 home runs, 15 runs batted in. It's kind of an odd delivery from Clippard.
Oh, with a quick step.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it, Tom.
It does seem that way. Diamondbacks will see Johnny Cueto on Friday night. We saw him do it the other day quite often for the Giants. 2 balls, 1 strike to Blanco.
Unless you're really comfortable with it, I don't know why you do it on a 1-0 count like Clippard did.
Yeah, I probably would hold on to it until there's 2 strikes.
Yeah. We have a count in your favor.
Clippard, who signed late with the Arizona Diamondbacks, was with the A's last year. Talked about having spring training here in Arizona while with the A's. And that's where he had the idea of trying to come to the Diamondbacks if they wanted him. He's not the exact same pitcher that he was when he was with the Nationals, but he still has that good changeup.
He's done a lot of innings out of relief.
2 balls, 2 strikes. Check swing. Did he go? Yes, he did, says the home plate umpire, and Blanco knew it. And 1 away. Time now for our Hyundai defensive play of the game. Let's go back to the 4th inning. Randall Delgado.
Well, he has to get over here. Paul Goldschmidt goes and gets it, flips it till Delgado, and then Delgado induces the 1-5-2-5-6-3 double play. Right now, that'd have been a huge run. That is your Hyundai defensive play of the game, brought to you by your local Hyundai dealers.
Here at the top of the 7th, Odubel Herrera is 1 for 3. Shows bunt, takes outside. 1 ball, no strikes. Shows bunt again, 2-0.
Hit a homer.
There's that changeup. Odubel was a little out front of that one and let it go by, and now it's 2-1. He bears down. That certainly has been his reputation in the short time he's been with the Phillies. Talk about focus a lot, particularly with this young ball club, that sometimes they lack a little focus. Well, he certainly doesn't when it gets to be late in games. Swing and a miss, 2-2. He's thinking he's getting a fastball with the count, 2 balls and 1 strike.
It's always been his go-to, that changeup for Clippard. Will mix in an occasional breaking ball. I mean occasional. He's predominantly a fastball changeup.
He tried to go with the fastball there on the inside part of the plate.
He did another quick pitch.
And a strike 3 call. Odubel's down looking. He does not agree with the home plate umpire. So 2 gone.
A high changeup just never seemed to come down. Take a look at where it crosses, just below the letters. Regardless if he swings, that's a good pitch to hit.
Yeah, he was.
You got to be look. I know, but you ball's up.
Borges shows bunt, takes low, 1 ball, no strikes. There's that quick pitch again. Interesting. After all these years, he just implements it now.
Forever trying to throw off the hitter's timing.
Popped him up and out of play. Three balls and 2 strikes. Out toward right center field. That's going to spin down for a base hit. And Borges takes a big turn around first. So he's aboard that keeps the inning alive for Maikel Franco. You want to talk about a cue shot. So Borges now has hit in 8 consecutive games with that base hit. Maikel Franco's coming up, and this is what he did his last time up in the 5th.
Gets a spinner here off Delgado, and he does not miss it. Nice, easy, powerful swing. Put the good guys up 2-1.
Franco has a double also tonight. So he is 2 for 3. His RBI total at 41. Now Borges was caught stealing right before that home run. Peter has a short lead off first. And Clippard had no intention of making that throw. Michael Bourn is deep out in center field. The same for Peter O'Brien in left field. Trying to cut off the gaps as best they can, but there's a lot of room out there. It's 413 to left center field and right center field. Check swing, and they appeal, and he went, says Dale Scott, and now it's 0-2. Wow.
We'll take a look.
He did go.
He did.
Mike Ellis. Should I look? Should I look?
He's flying way open on a lot of these pitches. That's why they're being left up in the zone. Just watch his front, his lead shoulder, his left shoulder. He goes. There's no way you can get back on top of that ball.
It sort of cuts down your velocity too. It stifles it. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Borges leads off first. Swing and a miss. Didn't cut off his velocity there. 91, and Maikel Franco strikes out to wrap up the top of the 7th inning. For the Phillies, no runs, 1 hit, 1 man left. Tyler Clippard struck out the side. Time to stretch. Seventh inning here at Chase Field. It's a 2-2 ball game between the Phillies and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Michael Bourn will lead things off for the D-backs. It'll be Bourn Goldschmidt and Jake Lamb against David Hernandez. Hector Neris is starting to warm up in the bullpen for the Phils. Bourne shows bunt, takes strike one, 0-1. Michael Bourne is 0 for 3 tonight. He has struck out twice. There's Hector Neris. That one goes right around the outside part of the plate. 1 ball, 1 strike. Over the head of Goldschmidt in the on-deck circle. Wow. I mean, right over his shoulder.
Notice how close to that railing he stands on the on-deck circle. Now I know why. Give himself as much reaction time as possible. And he is right next to that railing.
Bourne gets a piece of another one. Michael Bourne is playing center field for these Diamondbacks. A.J. Pollock is their normal center fielder. Boy, they had great expectations for Pollock.
Great year last year.
Yep. Injured himself earlier this season with a broken bone in his arm. And Bourne is struck out. Didn't matter that they checked his swing. The home plate umpire says he went down looking. Time now for the Jeep Stump the Fans Trivia Quiz answer. All right, Ben, here we go. Who holds the Diamondbacks single season record for highest pinch hit batting average?
I'm going to say Greg Colburn.
Greg Colburn is correct. Back in 1999, he hit .375 as a pinch hitter. And how did you know that?
Well, he was my teammate in Seattle in 03, I think.
And you guys used to talk about how good he was as a pinch hitter?
No, honestly, that was the only pinch hitter I could think of that played for Arizona.
Log back on to Phillies.com to find out if you're the winner of a Phillies prize pack. Goldschmidt fouls it back, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. He was a very good pinch hitter. Wasn't he hitting coach for somebody recently?
It's a good question. It does
out to right field. Peter Bourjos started back. Now he comes in and will get there. Second out of the inning. Hitting coach for the in the Yankees organization, and then with the Boston Red Sox. He is currently in the Yankees farm system with the Charleston River Dogs. The reason he is there is because he is a resident of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, which is a suburb of Charleston.
Makes sense.
Lamb takes strike 1, and it's 0-1. David Hernandez trying to give the Phils 2 scoreless innings of relief work. Lamb has been on base twice tonight. He's walked. He's also tripled. Strike 2. Daniel Hudson, the 8th inning man for the Diamondbacks, warming up. Every time the Phillies pitchers retire, the opposition 1-2-3. Comcast will make a contribution to Phillies charities. Phillies baseball is brought to you by Xfinity. Xfinity X1 will change the way you experience TV. Check swing, foul ball. He stays alive. And a high fly ball to deep right field. The Diamondbacks are going to have the lead in a huge way. Towering home run and an 0-2 pitch to Jake Lamb. It's now 3-2. D-backs, that's his 16th home run of the year. Man, that was a blast.
It sure was a blast. His 52nd RBI of the year. He found a couple pitches off. Maybe getting ahead, but this one not in a good location. And the slider's been good for him. It's been really good for him. He tries to backdoor it here, but leaves it up in the middle of the plate, and Lamb does not miss it.
So now Yasmani Tomas, who tied the ball game up in the 6th inning, will be the batter. 3-2 Arizona. First pitch fastball inside and low. 1 ball and no strikes. Phillies are trying to get 2 innings out of David Hernandez here tonight. Ramos was not available this evening. Two and 0. Talking to Paul Goldschmidt. Boy, Lamb has been a nice combination of Goldschmidt. He's now out homered him by 2. Goldschmidt has 14. Lamb has 16.
No coincidence, though. When one got hot, they both got hot. You know, Goldschmidt's seen a lot more pitches because they know Jake Lamb's doing some damage.
Absolutely. Two balls and 2 strikes to Tomas. And a strike 3 call right on the outside part of the plate. The inning is over. But the damage is done for the D-backs. Jake Lamb goes yard to right field. So as we go to the top of the 8th inning, the Diamondbacks on top 3-2 over the Phils. Big savings at Toyota's Red, White, and Blue sales event. Toyota, let's go places. By McDonald's. Stop by McDonald's today and enjoy the new McPick 2 for $2.50 menu. I'm loving it. And buy your local Ford stores. Top of the 8th inning, it's 3-2. Diamondbacks on top. If we want to see Murph do this tomorrow, Phillies need to score some runs. I think that's going to hurt Murph if he does that tomorrow, Ben.
Murph's indestructible.
Did you see what that guy did, Murph?
I did not see what he did, but
We'll show you
my
later, but
imagination's going wild.
Would you agree to do it?
I've already agreed to do way too much.
Yes.
Hey,
you
look,
have.
I want to get in that pool because that means we're going to win this series.
We need you in that pool.
We're going to win the series. We have an opportunity to win this road trip. 5-4 record in the road trip. So yeah, I want to get in the pool.
Yeah, we want to see you in that pool too. Ryan Howard's going to lead it off against Daniel Hudson here at the top of the 8th inning. First pitch is outside, 1 ball and no strikes. Did you figure out what your attire is going to be for that pool tomorrow? Do you have the right attire?
I do not.
Okay.
Which will make it all that much more interesting.
Hudson 1-1 with a 3.38 ERA. 1 ball, no strikes. Pitches inside, 2-0. Well, just so you know, the guy we showed did a belly flop into the pool.
Well, I could do that.
Shocking the woman that was sitting on the edge of the pool as he went over her head. Ryan Howard, 2 hits and 3 at bats against Hudson. Fastball in there. It's 2-1. Here we go again. Look at the kid to the left. Boy, he got some air, didn't he?
Face plant.
2-2. Off the hands, out toward right center field. Tomas comes in, makes the catch. He jammed Ryan Howard. So 1 out here in the 8th inning. And that will bring Carlos Ruiz to the plate.
Carlos Ruiz.
Carlos is 0 for 2, hit by a pitch his last time up. As a bullpen, the Diamondbacks bullpen 4.37 ERA, but tonight Delgado 3 innings, 1 run, and Chafin pitched a scoreless inning. Tyler Clippard pitched a scoreless inning, struck out 3. Carlos Ruiz, a high fly ball to left center field. It's fairly deep but playable for O'Brien. He makes the catch for the 2nd out.
Good swing. He did not miss that by much. Loud off the bat.
0-2 away. Cody Ash is coming up. Let's check back in with Greg Murphy with our T-Mobile update.
All right, thank you, Tom. It's our greater coverage of baseball presented by T-Mobile. And the Giants' Joe Panik was scratched from their game tonight, scratched out of the lineup with concussion symptoms. And that is not really the story because the injury occurred. He got hit by a pitch 10 days ago. On June the 18th, he got hit in the head with a pitch, but he passed 3 concussion tests after that. We saw him when the Phillies played in San Francisco this weekend. He played in 2 of the 3 games as that bat goes flying.
Into the dugout.
Right into the dugout. 2 of 7 was Joe Panik in the series against the Phillies. However, today, when he came out 10 days after the fact, started feeling the concussion symptoms, so they have shut him down. He will go through the concussion protocol again, but some scary stuff there in San Francisco. And the Major League debut for Lucas Giolito for the Washington Nationals was very effective, albeit shortened by rain. The game between the Mets and the Nats started 55 minutes late because of a rainstorm in Washington. Lucas Giolito did finally take the mound. He allowed a base hit to the first batter he faced and then did not allow another hit. He pitched 4 innings. Then the rains came again, and by the time that the rain stopped, the Nats didn't want to send him back out there. But an effective debut nonetheless for Lucas Giolito. He is the top prospect according to MLB Pipeline in all of Major League Baseball, and he made his debut today.
He actually had a heck of a curveball just by looking at some of the highlights of it. And a very good fastball, too. No balls and 2 strikes. Fastball topped off at 96 miles an hour. 0-2 pitch coming to Ashe. And he got a piece of it. Here's the bat going into the dugout. It did get Odubel Herrera. He is okay. Odubel had his back. He had his back to the bat flying. He was at the bat rack. In the dirt, 2-2. Cody is 0 for 3 tonight. He has struck out 3 times, once looking, twice swinging. Phillies down by 1. They took a 2-1 lead on a home run by Maikel Franco. And then 2 solo home runs by the Diamondbacks. Tomas and Jake Lamb has given the D-backs the lead 3-2. Ball 4, so Cody draws a walk. And Freddie Galvis will be the batter.
The old 2-out walk.
Shortstop, Freddie Galvis.
Make it hurt, Freddie.
Well, Galvis tonight it does have 2 hits. He singled his first time up and scored. Doubled his second time up. He's also flied out to center field. The double went down the left field line. Jimmy Paredes is out of the on-deck circle, and now Castillo out to talk to Daniel Hudson. I think he thinks a couple of these pitches are close and should be strikes, but they look like they are just off the outside part of the plate. Way out in front of that. It's 1 ball and 1 strike. That's some good movement right there. Out in front again. Same pitch, just different spot.
Yeah, I'm thinking you got to go triple up on it. If you're Hudson, why wouldn't you?
Well, he did, and this time it was in the dirt. It evens it up at 2-2. Paredes on deck. The pitcher spot is due up next. Pitcher spot is the number 8 spot in the order. After the double switch earlier, Hector Neris is still going to come in and pitch the bottom of the 8th inning. He's taking some funky swings here tonight, hasn't he?
Sure is, like he's looking for pitches in, and they really haven't challenged him inside at all. He's giving up the outside part of the plate.
Two balls, 2 strikes. Inside 3-2. Ashe will be off on this pitch.
Take what they give you.
Runner goes. Pitch is chopped foul. So we'll do it again. To the back end of the dugout.
He came with that changeup again. Freddie just getting enough to foul it off.
In the air to right field. Tomas is over toward the corner, and he's under it, makes the catch. Boy, he just missed that one. And the side is retired. No runs, no hits, and 1 man left. On to the bottom of the 8th inning. It's 3-2 Arizona. The New York Mets, it's the Galapagos Gang Beach Towel. Compliments of Pico. It's free to fans 14 and under. Tickets can be purchased anytime by going to Phillies.com. Bottom of the 8th inning, it's 3-2. Diamondbacks on top. And Hector Neris will be the new pitcher. Neris 2.61 ERA. 41 in the third, 48 strikeouts. Wellington Castillo takes strike one. It's 0-1. That ball is lined to right field, and Castillo's aboard with a leadoff single.
Have a night, huh? His third hit.
Left fielder, Peter O'Brien.
Brad Ziegler warming up in the bullpen. Peter O'Brien is the batter. O'Brien is 0 for 2. Walked intentionally in the 4th inning. Ricky Weeks is on deck to pinch hit for Daniel Hudson. 1 ball, 1 strike to O'Brien. And that's hit foul, and it's 1-2. Over to shortstop. Galvis turns to second for 1. Blanco's return to first in time. A 6-4-3 double play.
Oh, is that pretty?
Yeah, I didn't think they had a chance to turn to because of how softly that ball was hit.
When you turn it like that, you have a good chance. In and out of Freddie's glove, in and out of Andre's glove. Look how quick that is. All one motion. Good feed to Andre. Strong throw to big piece at first base. That is textbook. Any beauty.
Now Ricky Weeks Jr. will be the pinch hitter. 247 batter with 4 home runs and 10 RBIs. He had a tough night last night out in the outfield.
Hard to believe this is Hector Neris' 41st appearance. Leads all of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he has been a workhorse.
I think that'd be a number. If I were a reliever, I would take a lot of pride in that, knowing that you come to the field every day to pitch.
Well, I think the other part of it is when you're effective as well, which he has been, with the exception of a speed bump during the month of June.
Shows that you're in shape. You can bounce back. You're effective.
Well, that split certainly has been effective. He's found it again, and they've worked on it mechanically to make sure they do. Not only Bob McClure, but Rick Kranitz have both worked on it with him. And there are the two of them. Rick is normally in the bullpen, but he's been in the dugout the last couple nights. Swing and a miss, a 94-mile-an-hour fastball, and the side is retired. So the Phils will have one last chance after Neris pitches a scoreless 8th inning. We'll be back with the top of the 9th right after this. After the ballgame, stay tuned. Ricky Bottalico will be along to break down tonight's matchup between Jerad Eickhoff and really the Diamondbacks bullpen. Only on Cure Auto Insurance presents Phillies Post-Game Live. Just one run allowed by the Diamondbacks bullpen in relief of Zach Greinke, who left after 2 innings with a strained oblique. And now the best part of the Diamondbacks bullpen, Brad Ziegler, is on to try to close it out. Ziegler had a streak of 43 consecutive saves snapped on the 20th of June. And he's on here in the top of the 9th inning, seeking his 17th save of the season.
I would think it's one of the most challenging things as a manager. Obviously, managing the National League is tougher. But when you have a pitcher go out early in the ball game like you did with Zach Greinke, just throwing the 2 innings, trying to piece the rest of the ball game together has to be a tough chore if you're a manager.
Yep, I would agree. And you don't worry about the next day because you have to get through this day.
Right.
They may make a move tomorrow if they feel like they need to. But in reality, their bullpen hasn't been overly taxed here tonight. Paredes sends one down the left field line. That one's got a chance, and it's a one-hop off the base of the wall. And Paredes will pull into second base as the tying run with an opposite field double.
You can't try and pull Ziegler because you'll roll over to second base. The tough part is making him elevate a pitch. That was an amazing piece of hitting, because that's really not a pitch you can elevate if you're a hitter. And I mean elevate, get the ball in the air. That's a good piece of hitting.
Well, now he's at second base. Blanco is up. Pete talking to Bob McClure maybe about how they're going to use the bullpen. He's not going to try to sacrifice him over. He's going to put it in the hands of Andres Blanco to somehow get him over or get him in.
Big swing there by Andres. Looking to go up by 1 right there with that swing, Tom.
Phillies now with 9 hits with that double by Paredes. No balls and 1 strike to Blanco. Ground ball right side, and that's going to sneak into right field, a base hit. Paredes around third, heading for home. Tomas's throw on 1 hop, not in time. An RBI single, and it's a 3-3 game. And it's the second blown save in a week for Brad Ziegler, after going 43 games without blowing a save.
There's Andres Blanco.
Well, the other part of it too is Pete rolling the dice and saying, I'm going to go for, I'm going to let Andres get this guy over or in.
His first job was to advance the runner. He took care of that. The bonus is getting the single on top of it. Now, if you want me to sound really greedy here, Tom, Segura almost gets to that, but if you want to hear me get really greedy, I wish Andres would have gone to second on the throw.
Well, I thought the same thing, because the throw noticeably went over the cutoff man's head, and he was already at first base. Odubel slices it foul. No balls and 1 strike. Odubel tonight is 1 for 4. Well, give Jimmy Paredes some credit for coming off the bench and getting the leadoff double in the top of the ninth.
And watch this throw from Tomas. And he puts a lot of air on it. You can see it's well over Goldschmidt's head, but I think Castillo would have realized that there was no play at home plate, and he would have come up, short hop that ball, and would have had a good shot at Andres at second base.
Odubel takes down low. Mar Gomez warming up in the bullpen. One ball, 1 strike to Odubel, and he bunts it foul. It's 1-2.
If you're Chip, you're thinking, I made all the right moves, from Delgado to Chafin to Clipper to Hudson, and then he got Mr. Automatic. That's why this is the best game.
Ground ball right side. That gets past Segura into right field. Blanco around second, heading to third. The throw by Tomas is not in time. First and third with still nobody out.
Outstanding.
Right fielder Peter Borges.
And Peter Borges now coming up.
Now does Peter bunt? Odubel shoots it through the hole. Very aggressive base running by Andres. Very good turnaround second base. Odubel's fired up.
Yeah, he thought about going to second base, but he didn't want to take a chance there.
That's because Mickey put a lasso around him. You see the lasso?
Well, Chip Hale's coming out to the mound. He just now started bullpen action, so he's not making a change unless somebody was warming up beforehand.
A couple things here they're going to discuss. One, how you're going to get Peter Borges out. 2, is Peter Borges going to bunt? 3, if Odubel Herrera runs, how are we going to handle this? Are we going to throw through? Are we going to eat it? So a couple different options here for Chip. I'd have to believe they'd be throwing through here.
All right, what about you? What about your thoughts? You know, if you can expand on Borges bunting. You're talking bunting Odubel to second, or bunting to get Blanco home?
Bunting Odubel to second base. Doesn't mean Andres can take as much as Jake Lamb will give him down at third base. If this is a perfectly executed bunt, Andres can read it and take as much as Jake Lamb will give him here.
Infield is in, runners on first and third. Outside, 1 ball and no strikes.
Goldschmidt was crashing.
Outside again, 2-0. Phillies have tied the game up here in the top of the ninth inning. Nobody out, and they have runners on first and third. Boy, how about Pete? I absolutely thought Andres was going to bunt to move Paredes over to third. He says, nope, I'm going to let him swing away. He gets the base hit that brings him home. Three and 0.
It's a manager's intuition.
I have to say he does things a little differently than many managers, and he's confident about it too. Maikel Franco waits on deck. Borges takes outside, and the bases are now loaded. Bases are loaded for Franco. Franco waiting for his elbow guard. Chip Hale on the phone.
Third baseman, Maikel Franco.
Franco tonight has doubled. He's also homered. And again, the Diamondbacks will play the infield in to try to cut off the go-ahead run.
I'm not saying you go with a straight uppercut here, but you do everything in your power to keep the ball off the ground.
Get it in the air, whatever you can. Out to the outfield, preferably. The infield in the pitch. He backed away, and the breaking ball goes over. It's 0-1. See the numbers with Franco. He's only had, this is only his 11th opportunity with the bases loaded. Ball and 2 strikes. I don't know if he could have done anything with that pitch.
I think he did the right thing with it. Now it's a different story, 1-2.
Three balls and 2 strikes. Fans are reacting, but that pitch was way outside. Blanco's over third. Herrera's at second. Borges at first. And Ryan Howard is on deck. The Phillies have tied it here in the 9th inning, looking to take the lead. 3 balls, 2 strikes to Maikel Franco. Swing and a miss. He got him to go fishing after ball 4. And 1 away.
First baseman, Ryan Howard.
That almost looked like a ball out of his hand.
It did, and that's the only pitch he saw the entire at bat. If Ryan Howard were in there right now, they'd hit him.
Howard is 0 for 3, walked his second time up. He's had a couple of at-bats, actually 3 at-bats against Ziegler, 2 for 3. Career grand slams, the franchise leader. 2-2 to Howard. Kind of games that make managers pace. Howard stays alive by lining that one down the right field line. Win tonight, the Phillies would win a series for the first time since the Marlins series over a month ago. And now the 2-2 pitch outside, 3-2. Well, you really have to bear down if you're Ryan Howard, because Ziegler is throwing more balls than strikes in this outing. He struck out Franco by throwing a ball. Ball 4, and that forces in the go-ahead run. Ryan Howard lays off and walks for the second time tonight. Blanco crosses the plate. It's 4-3 Phillies.
Talk about a ball out of the pitcher's hand. I mean, this is not even close. Give Ryan Howard credit, though, for fouling a couple pitches off, getting to that full count. Watch where this pitch ends up. I mean, that may have actually been worse than the one that Michael swung at.
Yeah. Well, here's Ruiz now with the bases loaded. Carlos takes a fastball, and it's 0-1. Now base hit here, and the Phils could add some insurance. Give Jeanmar Gomez a little breathing room going into the bottom of the 9th inning. Two and 0. Carlos was hit by a pitch earlier in the game. Ground ball picked up by Ahmed. He bobbles for a moment, steps on second, and throws to first. I can't believe he took that himself. And the inning is over. But the Phillies do score 2 runs in the inning, and they take the lead. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. If you want to see Murph do this tomorrow, and we promise he's going to do that, well, maybe we shouldn't promise. We're going to the bottom of the 9th. Ziegler It all started with the Jimmy Paredes opposite field double, and then some key moves by Pete Mackanin, including letting Andres Blanco swing away with Paredes at second base, and he swung away and drove in the tying run, and he eventually scored the go-ahead run. And now Genmar Gomez looking for his 21st save of the season. He comes in 2-2 with an ERA of 3.09. And he will face
shortstop
Nick Ahmed, and then the top of the order.
I say every time, 3 outs, the quickest way you can get them.
Ahmed singled his last time up, was hit by a pitch, and then struck out. Or I should say struck out, hit by a pitch, and singled. So he'll lead off the bottom of the 9th inning and then the top of the order. Phillies once again with double digits and hits. First pitch is in there. It's 0-1. Ball and 1 strike. For a good part of this year, Genmar Gomez was the major league leader in saves, but that stalled because the Phillies hadn't won a whole lot of games in the month of June. He's got a chance though to add to his total. Fly ball right field. Peter Borges says he has it. He puts his hand up a couple times and tells Odubel, stay away. Reminder coming up, Phillies post-game live. Ricky Vitalico has just added to the list of things he can talk about with the way the Phillies have come back to take the lead here.
Second baseman, Gene
Segura, who is 2 for 3, will be the batter with 1 man down. Starts him off with the same pitch that he started Ahmed off with. Oh, and 2. Back to the mound, flagged down by Gomez, and he flips to first, 2 away.
He does get in a very good fielding position, does Genmar. He completes his pitch. He becomes a fielder. Ball gets back to him very quickly, but he's in a good athletic position to field the ground ball.
Well, now he needs to get the last out. It's Michael Bourne who's coming up with 2 men down. When the Phillies are trailing after 8 innings, they are 0-41 this year. Trying to put 1 win in the column with this one here tonight. Michael Bourne is 0 for 4. He has struck out 3 times. It has been more than a month since the Phillies last won a series. 2-0. Good sink on that. 2-1. So many times we've talked about Gomez and how he is a sinker ball pitcher. When he doesn't work, it doesn't have that late movement on it. Pete was talking about that today, and so was Bob McClure, that they need to get him into more games, even if the Phillies are down. Well, he's in here to try to save the game. Outside, 3-1. Trying to get Bourne and not have to face Goldschmidt, who's in the on-deck circle. They don't want to face him and have him come up as the potential winning run. Three balls and one strike to Michael Bourne. Over to first base. Ryan Howard charges, has it, tags out Bourne, and the ball game is over. The Phillies come from behind for the first time this year when trailing after 8 innings, and they win it 4-3. Jenmar Gomez closes out the 9th inning. The Phils get 2 runs in the top of the 9th inning. They win it 4-3. They've won a series for the first time since May 18th. And Andres Blanco is our Chevrolet player of the game. His RBI single tied it, and then his run gave the Phils the eventual victory.
Well done. It's just a great team effort. Bullpen came in, did their job. Jerad Eickhoff had a very good start. 5+ innings for Jerad. They held in. Some very good execution of pitches with runners on base, with Diamondbacks on base. It's just a great win.
All right, W. Mason deliveries of the game. So we go to the 9th inning of tonight's ball game, and we start the 9th inning off with Andres Blanco with the base hits.
Well, Jimmy Paredes hits a double down the line off Ziegler. And then Andres Blanco, Pete Mackanin saying, you know what, I'm not going to bunt him over here. I'm going to let him swing. That's the game tying run. And then the big piece with the game winning walk. Blanco walks for your WB Mason deliveries of the game. Andres Blanco is with our very own Greg Murphy. Murph, take it away.
All right, thank you very much, Ben. Yes, here with Andres Blanco, who helped in the bottom of the 8th inning. You turn the double play, you get to the top of the 9th, you guys are trailing, and then Paredes gets the double. And then you come up, and the conventional wisdom was, well, they'll probably lay down a bunt, but the confidence is shown in you to swing away, and you were able to come through.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of those good things for a manager. Always give us a lot of confidence to try to do what we can do, and especially when he see that you always battling to get good at bat. He gave me the opportunity right there, and then I take it seriously.
Well, I know you do take it seriously. You use the word battling. This team continues to battle, but this is the first time that you guys have come back this season when trailing after 8 innings. You get the win tonight. You get it in the 9th inning. As this team continues to grow, a young team, what is that? So how is that a learning moment for these guys?
Exactly. Look, it's been very important for us to come back and win, and especially we've been playing pretty good lately, and that's good. Everybody just came up all tired of every time we came up and losing. Now we kind of settle down a little bit, let things happen, and keep pushing until the end. And then we came and play better, like we did in the beginning. Hopefully, we continue to do it. It's something hard to do it for the guys that get tired mentally, but we're right here. We take the win. Let's see tomorrow take another one.
Well, and tomorrow's going to be kind of a special day, at least for me, because I had said before this series that if you guys won the first 2, I was going to go swimming. What, you think that's a good idea for me to get?
That's a great idea. Look, it's one of those things that make you fortunate somebody make you pay the bet. In this case, we take the win, and he take the pool. We'll see tomorrow.
I am happy to take the pool after 2 wins. Exactly. Guys, back upstairs. I got to go get a swim trunks or something.
Oh, that is outstanding. Thank you, Murph. Thank you, Andres. We appreciate that. 4-3, the Phillies win it. And yes, what does it mean? It means that Murph is gonna get wet.